Now, there's an alternative approach to learning and culture that you find in the early church, especially in Alexandria and the Eastern tradition that follows. It represents really the common heritage of Christianity throughout the ages, and is one which it repeatedly uses. It states explicitly what Tertullian does implicitly. I'm going to go through a few writers from the early centuries to give examples of that. One of the first writers who really does this is Clement of Alexandria. Here, with Clement, again, end of the 2nd century, beginning of the 3rd century, we can see a massive appropriation of Greek pagan learning. He's a man steeped in classical culture, in paedia, in that formation, not just academic education, but a full education, a full enculturation, the full civilization of the whole person as a true human being. And he presents Christianity actually in the same way, as the education of a human being. We've got 3 works from him, and they run successively, outlining this whole program of Christianity. The first work we've got from him is called the Protrepticos, the exhortation. An exhortation using an abundance of classical references, imagery, and allusions to pagan mythology, to rhetoric, to philosophy, all sorts of things, to persuade people to abandon their ways and turn to Christianity, maybe to convert or maybe to come back to the fold. The second book is called the Pedagogue, 3 books of instruction detailing everything that should manifest a true human being, how they should behave in late antiquity. It's 3 full books. It's pretty tedious reading, but when you do that, you'll see how concerned he is for absolutely every aspect of our life. From everything from how we are to walk, how we are to speak to others, to servants, to children, to other people, how to avoid belching at the table. I mean, all this kind of information he provides us so that we will actually maintain a proper human shape. And then finally, 7 books, which he calls astromates, which really means kind of like a carpet bag of material. 7 books of miscellaneous notes, written for the more educated Christian, and arguing about various subtle points in philosophy, in dialogue with practically every philosopher from Greek antiquity. In fact, it's in his work that we've got many, many quotations preserved which would otherwise be lost from ancient philosophers and poets. And in this, he utilizes every aspect of knowledge that he can lay hold of, from astronomy to zoology. Everything is now shaped within this Christian context. So already there, at the same time as Tertullian, you've got this thinker, Clement of Alexandria, setting a model for how we're to engage with culture. The next figure in Alexandria, and probably the greatest one, certainly for the Eastern tradition, laying his thumbprint upon everything else, although he was condemned several centuries later, is a figure of Origen. And we've got a unique insight into education for Christians, provided by Origen. We've got a letter from Origen to a young man called Gregory, later became known as Gregory the Wonder Worker, who became a pupil of Gregory. Gregory writes to him, exhorting him to become a student of his. Then a few years later, we've got a letter from this Gregory to Origen, giving thanks for the education that he had. This letter from Origen to Gregory is preserved in a collection of writings known as a Philokalia, not the Philokalia of the 18th century, but the Philokalia, which is a compilation of passages from Origen collected together by Gregory the Great, Gregory of Caesarea, and Basil of Caesarea and Gregory Nazianzus. They went on retreat, they studied his works, and they pulled together all the things that they thought best in his writings. Now, in this letter, the letter of Origen to Gregory, Origen provides a scriptural image which thereafter becomes a classical reference point for justifying this use of pagan culture. It's the image of the Israelites plundering the Egyptians. He begins by exhorting Gregory to study. Yes, you've got natural ability, Origen says. You could easily become an expert in Roman law. You could become a philosopher in the Greek school. But, he continues, I am very desirous that you should accept such parts, even of Greek philosophy, as may serve for the ordinary elementary instruction in our schools, and to be a kind of preparation for Christianity. Those portions of geometry and astronomy likely to be of use in interpretation of the sacred scriptures, so that what the pupils of philosophy say about geometry and music, grammar and rhetoric and astronomy, that is, that they are the handmaidens of philosophy, we may say of philosophy in its relation to Christianity. Just as philosophy will take everything else and use it all together, so theology, Christian theology, takes philosophy as its handmaiden. So all human learning is to be brought into service into whatever it may offer a Christian student, whatever it may offer to those who are studying theology. Just as the basic disciplines of grammar, rhetoric, geometry, astronomy, and music, which all students would study, were taken as preparation for philosophy, so philosophy is preparation for theology. Theology, as the Middle Ages would put it, is the queen of the sciences. Everything else is its handmaiden. And then he carries on with a scriptural image. He says, perhaps something of this kind is hinted at in the command from the mouth of God himself, that the children of Israel be told to ask their neighbors and companions for vessels of silver and gold and for clothing, so that by plundering the Egyptians, they might find materials to make the things of which they were told for the divine service. For out of the plunders which the children of Israel took from the Egyptians came the content of the Holy of Holies, the ark with its cover, the cherubim, the mercy seat, and the golden pot wherein was treasured the manna, the angel's bread. These things were made from the best of the Egyptian gold. So, as the Israelites plundered the material wealth of the Egyptians in order to make preparations for the service in their temple, so Christians are to plunder the Egypt of this world, all its learning, all its disciplines, all its knowledge, in order to be able to provide the basic forms for its own worship. This image of plundering the Egyptians thereafter became, as I said, the standard reference point for the way in which Christians are to use the best that the world has to offer. It is the paideia, the formation by which we are educated to understand more abstract matters and to have our character formed into a suitable disposition. Everything from knowing how to walk, how to deport ourselves, how to breathe properly, all the things which go to make us truly human. All of this is to be taken up and appropriated by Christianity. Really, you can look at the early church as a period of a cultural takeover bid. You've got the world of Homer and you've got the world of Christianity going back to Moses, and there's a battle between the two. Which is more authentic? And one takes over all the other in order to use it for itself.